Buying or selling a home is one of the biggest decisions of a person's life. Even when everything goes perfectly, it can still be complicated and stressful. There's so much attached to it emotionally because our home is a reflection of who we are. It's not just a transaction when somebody's purchasing a home. This is something that they're going to live in. This is something that they're going to have family memories for. And it can be sometimes difficult when you get really busy in the spring markets. And it's a reminder, that's why it's so important for us as a team to sit there and get to know the individual that we're sitting there representing. Learn their story, learn why they're going and where they're going, so that way we can better represent them in ultimately the largest purchase decision that they're going to make in their life. A lot of agents, they see a property and they don't see the family, they don't see the story, they don't see the person behind that property. That's one of the biggest problems in this industry, that people forget the person that we're supposed to be helping. That's one of the most rewarding parts about being a realtor. It's sitting there helping the family to accomplish their goals, their financial security. And really, that's the most important thing.
Really, the purchase of a house is an emotional thing. They buy it because of their family and their children and inviting friends over. They want to be the king of their castle. They want to really be proud of what they own. They can imagine their friends sitting there. They can imagine their kids playing in the backyard because it's so cool backyard. Now you're in a situation where they're emotionally involved in your home. And I can tell you one thing I've known over my 35 years, when someone gets emotionally involved in a purchase, money becomes much less an obstacle.
The successful business owner never sits there and looks to reinvent the wheel. You'll never succeed by doing that. So with Jay and Mike, they've created a system that ultimately got them to become one of the largest teams in the country. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I'll always go to the successful people and say, hey, what are you doing? How did you do it? How can I sit there and help my clients like you did? And Jay and Mike, they explained to me that they created a system that has helped their sellers sit their net up to 18% more. Now, I was doing a lot of those things before I met them, but you always want to sit there and improve. You always want to sit there and continue to move forward in order to make sure that you are doing the best job that you possibly can in representing your clients. Teaming up with the National Association of Expert Advisors, it's a way that individual can learn the systems and learn the scripts in place in order to become a more effective professional. One of the biggest problems in our industry is the lack of training. You sit there, you get your license, and then all of a sudden that new licensee expects that they're going to go out and sell $1 million house tomorrow. There's a reason why that 80% of all new licensees end up leaving the business within 1 year. And it comes down to training. It comes to them not knowing how to sit there and actually run the business.
Let's face it, for most people, selling your home is going to be the largest financial transaction you'll ever make in your lifetime.
And that's your home equity on the line, not your real estate agent, so you don't want to take chances.
You don't want to gamble. You don't want to feel like you're playing the slots at a casino. What you want is the biggest payoff possible when you sell your home.
That's why we spent years researching real estate around the world and working in our local communities to develop a method to maximize that payoff.
The result is a proven, repeatable system that works for any home in any market.
We look at it like this. Your home is not just your home, it's also the largest investment that you probably have made. And you wouldn't want to utilize the equity that you have. You wouldn't want to leave money on the table. So we look at it from that approach, is how do we help you maximize the investment you've made in real estate to make sure that you walk away with the most amount of money. Over the years, we became very frustrated in the real estate industry that there just wasn't a true level of professionalism that every single real estate agent was kept up to. A level of integrity, a level of expertise, a level of understanding of how to get the most for their client, whether they're buying or selling. And that's the reason that Mike and I founded the National Association of Expert Advisors. That's the reason that we opened Kinder Reese as a brokerage. Selling lots of homes is great, but the most important factor in being successful as a real estate agent isn't the number of homes you sell. It's how well and how much value you add to the transaction.
Every single month, every single quarter, every single year is really dialing in the real estate model because it's broken. It's bottom line broken. When you look from a brokerage model, there's people out there just running the business and not really running it the right way. And so I feel like it's my obligation, it's my duty. I mean, I speak to people who don't even know how many leads they get. I speak to people who don't know any of their metrics. And that would be so unacceptable with most other industries. And it's just shocking when you talk to real estate agents, they just haven't been trained on any of that.
My dad, he's the true sense of the entrepreneur. He's the man that I look to be. When I was growing up, he wanted to fulfill his dream. He had a dream and he wanted to follow that dream. And him and my mom, they used our home as the collateral to go start that dream. And unfortunately, a recession hit and we ended up losing our house. And the importance of that story is when I sit down with an individual who is needing to short sale their house because of financial hardship, well, I get that. There's a story behind every person, and behind every person there's a goal and there's a dream. And as a real estate professional, it's my job to understand that story and help that individual accomplish that dream.
Jeff is really probably one of the most innovative agents that stays really on top of what's going on in the market. That's important because things that typically work as far as in an online environment change so quickly. And he's just done a really remarkable job of understanding those different dynamics and being able to manage his clients and all the opportunities to make sure that he keeps their interests in mind and really captures the full opportunity that they can achieve when selling their home.
I consider getting your real estate license like graduating middle school. Congratulations, you have some building blocks in order to be successful in this business, but you still have a long way to go. High school is really kind of going out there, learning a couple things and messing up. The National Association of Expert Advisors, it's graduate school. In order to be part of the National Association of Expert Advisors, there's more education that's involved. There's a standard that's set that you have to meet in order to be there. And that's one of the huge differences between an advisor versus just a regular real estate agent.
The way we teach people to run a real estate business is common sense. It's just not common knowledge. When you get your real estate license, they say, plan on about 6 months of no income. And it's 6 months. Who can afford to get into real estate? Well, it's no wonder 80% of them get out of the business in the first year. And it's just because it's the way that this old school business way of doing things. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do that are productive and are going to get results right away. You just got to focus on those things. And fortunately, those are the things that we do first. To drive, profitability.
I've been in real estate for a long time, and I started as an agent, was an agent for about 10 years at the beginning of my career before I got into management and went on from there. But I'll never forget, I took over a listing that hadn't sold, and I really thought that the property was priced right. But the funny thing is, when I walked up to the front door, I said, "What's that? I'm smelling something." They actually had an old tire and an old fish tank in the corner of their garage near their front door as you walk up to their front door. You could actually get that smell as you're going through. That couple, by just taking the tire and the fish tank away, and I went in and we had them redo their children's bedroom because black wasn't really what everybody wanted with satanic people. Just repainted. It did take 2 coats. Just repainting it changed the whole thing. We actually raised the price and sold it within 3 weeks with just minor things that we changed. But you have to have an agent smart enough to know that.
I think that's fundamentally the problem in the first place is no one's making and providing this stuff in one place. They're leaving the agent up to hope and any, miny, mo as the only real strategy of finding the answers.
Recently we helped somebody, their house had been on the market for nearly 2 years and they didn't have any offers at that time. We stepped in and sat down with them. They wanted to move down south to live out the rest of their years. And it was amazing. I walked in the house and it was a beautiful, beautiful home, but The 2 or 3 agents that had been there before me and had marketed this property didn't tell them what they needed to do. And that's why staging is one of the most important things. I sent my stager in, they sat there and they did some minor tweaks, moved around some furniture, painted a wall or two, nothing too huge. We sent in our professional photographer, we marketed the property appropriately, how it should have been, and sure enough, it was sold within 2 weeks. We're out there, we're every day making that difference and showing that there is a better way of doing it.
Buying a home is so much more than just picking out the home. There's just so many other things that are involved in that process that you really need to take into consideration. Our smart home buying strategy manages over 80 different variables that are involved in the buying process because there are so many parts. And when you identify these variables, it allows you to be proactive. But ultimately, I think at the end of the day, it helps a home buyer find what I would consider as the perfect home and negotiate the best price and terms.
They use this metaphor. They're like, hey, listen, I could give you all the ingredients for a chocolate cake. I could give you flour, I could give you baking powder, salt, sugar, chocolate, eggs, milk, the whole thing. And then I could say, hey, go make a cake. And if you get lucky, you're gonna make a cake. And if you make a cake, it may not be a tasty cake. Or I can give you the ingredients and then I can give you all the recipe that goes along with it. And the simplest way to put it is that we've got a recipe here. And if you look at the people who have come through the system and would follow the recipe that Mike and Jay have laid out, they've had incredible year-over-year success.
The NAEA system involves 115 different variables. There's a lot that goes into selling your house. And as an example, one of the most important variables that I find is staging. That's why we include it with all of our marketing consultations. We bring out a stager to sit down with you and talk to you about different ways that you can maybe move this piece of furniture over here and take this picture off of the wall in order to make the house open and more inviting to that potential buyer. It's been proven that staged houses sell faster and for more money. That's why we include it in our marketing package. You do all of that work, well, we need to send in a professional photographer that's going to take professional pictures. I always get a good laugh at the agent that's sitting there that takes the picture from their car, where you can see the little car, the dashboard on the car. Or the agent that sits there and has taken the pictures, but you can easily tell from their iPhone. There's a lot that goes into selling what is probably your largest investment, and that's why you need to hire somebody with professional standards right from the get-go.
For us, it's all about understanding the seller or the buyer and what their needs are, and really being able to get them exactly what it is that they're looking for, and removing all the problems and challenges that you typically might run into in a home purchase or a home sale.
I'm from England and I've moved house about 15 times so far in my life, and I'm tired of moving house, especially now with marriage and with my family. It was time to we needed to really find somewhere where we could put down roots and not move again. That was really the vision, that was our dream. So with our expert advisor, we basically shared that dream. The way we told our son, we said, we're going to buy a forever house. That's what we told Alex, our 2.5-year-old. Because although he's 2.5, he's already moved 3 times. This is his 3rd move, and he's 2.5. Everybody says that selecting a house, buying a house can be difficult, problematic, can drag on. And we watched all the shows on TV where you've got people and they see 5, 10, 15, 20 houses, and each time they're like, no, 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 no. When I see those shows, for me it's like there's something wrong with that agent, because the agent's continually showing the client things they don't want. In our case, our expert advisor, he actually said, I think I know exactly the house you want. But he said, before I show you it, let me show you some others so you can get a sense of comparison. There wasn't a single house he showed us that didn't fit our dream. So there was no wasted effort. I mean, the first one, he said, you'll see the first one, you'll want to buy it. And we saw the first house and we're like, yeah, I'll buy that, we'll buy that. Everything was perfect, it was exactly what we were looking for. I immediately could see myself, my family, living here and my kids going to school from here. Everything was it was like a dream come true. You're filming me here, I'm sitting in my dream now. It became real. That requires skill and as I said, a strategy to make this happen. I can't praise our expert advisor enough for the fact that I'm sitting here in our forever home.
We're really excited because not only are we helping homeowners with maximizing their home sale, We've been able to actually teach this process to other agents around the country. We tallied up and came to the conclusion that, homeowners literally spend tens of thousands of dollars in unnecessary expenses when buying a home. And they don't even really get the right advice a lot of the time. So if you are buying a home and if you're working with an expert advisor, the satisfaction in making sure that you don't spend that unnecessary money, and at the same time really look at the home as not only an emotional purchase but also as an investment.
The overall experience looking for the house is probably the easiest thing I've ever done as far as big purchases. Definitely easier than even buying a car or renting an apartment or even starting a basic TV service. I mean, it was quite easy. Everything was one package for us. It was like the complete home buying strategy was already set up into play before we even started looking for the home. Our agent came to us with a detailed listing of certain homes, this being the #1 home on the list, of course. To know that I could contact my agent directly, email, text, phone, get a quick response, not only about the pricing of the home, but also the behind the scenes as far as leasing and what it would cost, down payments, everything seemed to be in-house, set up quite easy for both of us.
The market's always constantly moving. It's always changing. The internet has been one of the biggest disruptors in our market, but at the same time, it's made us more efficient. It's made the transaction better. It's made it more consumer friendly. Well, with the constant changes, you need to be looking to other professionals that are in the same exact position that you are. I have to sit there and manage my business and sell houses. I can't always be sitting there constantly thinking about developing and, hey, what's the next step? What's the next trend? By sitting down with other like-minded individuals and brainstorming and talking about our problems and being around a round table and coming up with solutions, it takes that professional standard that we're able to sit there and multiply all over the country, thereby elevating us as a profession.
My expert advisor helped me to develop a smart home buying strategy. He was able to find the home that I loved with all the different features. And I'm a very picky buyer. I always said this was my next to the last resting place. So I wanted it to be perfect, and he was able to help me find that. There were times when I wasn't able to come here from San Antonio, and I can call him and say, can you take care of this for me? And he actually did. And so that helped me a whole lot. It saved a whole lot of time. If anyone's looking for a new home, I would advise them to use an expert advisor. I was looking for my dream home, and my expert advisor helped me to find my dream home.
One of the things that I enjoy about the NAEA is that there are no hobbyists there. It's all people that look at this as a business. They're not in it for the quick buck. They're not in it for just because they're bored. They're in it to make a difference in other people's lives, which makes a difference in their life. Being part of the National Association of Expert Advisors, it allows me to be with those other like-minded professionals. There's a huge trust deficit from the consumers to the real estate professionals, and that's one of the things that the National Association of Expert Advisors is really trying to change. It's to create a professional standard. By joining forces with them, it's a small thing that I can do in order to make a change, a positive change in my industry.
I mean, the thing that strikes me about Jay and Mike both is just how authentic and real and the level of passion they have, not to necessarily build a business, which is a byproduct of what they're doing, but it's really just changed the real estate industry because they have such a passion to see real estate agents succeed and the consumer get the best advice they could possibly get.
Coaching other real estate agents who are like-minded and want to be successful is the best job in the world, because you get to help people that truly want to be successful, and you get to take all the barriers down, and you get to show them a simple step-by-step plan on how to get there.
We're working on the best practices, the real world experience, the things that are going on today, whether it's what's working online, what's working with actually running the business side of things, the team, the technology, the automation, the things that are out there. Some of the things that I'm most excited about didn't even really exist when I got into real estate.
What we've learned in working with thousands of the top agents around the country is that there are over 115 different variables involved in the home selling process. And it's whether or not you maximize those variables that's going to determine whether your home sells at the top of the market, middle of the market, or the bottom of the market.
Being one of the top teams in the country, we've developed the systems and the relationships that ultimately make us a one-stop shop for the buyer or the seller. All of this adds up to a less stressful experience for our clients. At this point, we've helped over 1,000 families move, but we're not stopping. We're constantly looking at what's next in the industry so that way we can better help the next 1,000 families move.